So I've been taking a look at a couple analyses, and I'm gonna take a couple clips of those analysis, and I will provide the links to the YouTubes below, so you can get a full analysis of what I'm segmenting here. But market activity overall is down. This could be partly because of the low inventory that I was harping on through the market analysis. Could be on low interest rates. Bottom end of the market is fairly stable, even though we are seeing overall net prices going down, but the price per square foot is increasing. As we go through these charts, remember, these are market-wide averages, and taking them at face value is misleading. We have to go behind the numbers to see the real story. This is the only evidence of interest rates increasing on our market in the lower end of the market. As the price per square foot goes up, it just means that smaller houses are selling faster. And since those houses are typically more affordable, the median price of the market doesn't appear to be moving over a period of time, but the price per square foot does. It was last August when the interest rates had started moving up. We'd already had 2 or possibly 3 interest rate increases priced into this market, going from July all the way to the end of August. Last year at this time, the median price of homes in Walnut Creek was about $1.6 million. This year, it's a little bit less than that, but not anything that makes sense with mathematical adjustment to interest rates. Okay, so I'm going to the mortgage calculator over here, and so if the median price is $1.8 million, you need, say, $400,000 down. So this equates to $360,000 in 20% down payment and another $40,000 worth of miscellaneous expenses. And so let's just call that your first month's payment, your title and escrow fees, your loan fees, appraisal, home inspections. It's probably not going to be a full $40,000. Let's just call that expensive and just do that to keep the numbers round. So I'll put in a total loan amount of $1.4 million. And that gives you a current payment of $9,366. This doesn't include your property taxes or insurance. Let's change the interest rate to half that, which is where we were last July, and you see that the payment back then was $6,333. So you see that the payment is significant. For somebody who's buying a $1.4 million house, it's probably not a big deal, but the point being is that the jump is tremendous. Let's take a look at the median price in Concord on this number. So we know that the median price about $700. The payment back then was $3,100 plus another $700 or $800 a month in property taxes and insurance, and we increase that to 7.0. Now the payment's $4,000, $1,500. That's significant. Last year was still a pretty good year for sellers. This year is an even better year for sellers, but they're not seeing it in anything other than the price per square foot. We're not seeing huge bidding up of homes the way we were looking at 2 or 3 years ago. With the low inventory situation, it is bolstering the market from top to bottom. So check out this video from MHFIN on YouTube. His channel is full of real estate analysis, which I trust.
Then what he's saying is that the inventory situation will continue to be dreadful for years to come, and prices will remain relatively stable. If we look at Alto's research numbers, the current inventory sits at 492,000. That's how many homes are available for sale in the United States today. That number is 10% less than last year, and while it's ticked up in recent weeks, we have a long way to go before we ever reach pre-2020 numbers. Some experts are now starting to argue that this tight inventory situation is here to stay permanently, that it's the new normal, and to be fair, there's a lot of reasons why this could very well be the case. As we speak, there are thousands of buyers who are lined up on the sidelines ready to buy the second mortgage rates drop down to more reasonable levels, and below them, there are thousands more who are ready to buy when prices go down even a small amount. Over the past 3 years, this growing cohort of patient buyers has created this reserve demand of sorts. Every time the market gets shaken up, whether it's mortgage rates going down or prices, what happens is thousands of buyers step up to take advantage of the opportunity, and ultimately this cohort fills the void, preventing any sort of crash momentum. Essentially, this group of people keeps the market propped up, and it's why many are now starting to believe that all of this market mayhem isn't going away and residential real estate will continue to prosper. Here's why this is the case. This is about as simple as I can make it. First, you have to understand that inventory essentially dictates prices. And if we look over the last 5-6 years, you can see that in 2022, we witnessed one of the craziest swings in housing inventory of all time. From the bottom to the top, we saw a 161% increase in available homes for sale. And remember, this would be almost impossible to replicate due to base effects, but regardless, let's use this as our template. Even if we assume that going forward, we somehow see inventory rise 161% per year from here, it would take over 2 years of heavy growth to see the same numbers that we saw in 2018, which by the way, were considered healthy back then. So ultimately, if we're somewhat realistic about this and realize that a sustained 161% inventory growth is basically impossible and that there is a massive cohort of sideline buyers ready to scoop up any extra inventory, then we have to admit that the inventory situation for housing in the United States will be rough for probably the next decade. And if that's the case, you can easily see why and how Warren Buffett decided to buy up some of the country's largest home builders. He likely doesn't believe that we will experience anything close to a 2008-like crash, and a massive part of the reason is the fact that inventory will continue to be tight for many more years to come. Thank you.
There were two things that needed to change this market. First was an increase in interest rates. That's happened. The next shoe that needs to fall is we need to have an increase in inventory. So the question is how much does inventory have to increase before we see what we could even feasibly call a correction? In this next segment, Reventure Consulting has created a chart which likens the 2008 market to the market that we're in right now.
With inventory levels in neighborhoods like this here in California so low, that's a situation that creates very little margin for error in the housing market. Very important you guys understand that as a home buyer and investor. Low inventory is not a signal that prices will never go down. Rather, it's a signal that if only a small amount of things goes wrong and inventory increases just by a little bit, there's going to be big problems. And something to consider is what happened back in 2008, everyone. Let's take a look at inventory. And you can see data from the National Association of Realtors shows that right before the downturn, inventory went from 2 million homes on the market to 3 million. So it increased by 1 million. It went up by 50%. It was a 50% increase in inventory that precipitated a 25% decline in home prices nationally, 40% in California, 60% in Nevada. It was a 50% increase in inventory that did that. Now, today, the inventory is near an all-time low, 1.1 million, which means that we actually need a much smaller increase in nominal inventory, only about 500,000 or 600,000 homes on the market to get a 50% increase. And when that happens, the buyers aren't going to be there to absorb the inventory because the affordability is still terrible. Mortgage rates are 7.4%. Jerome Powell just did a speech in Jackson Hole in Wyoming basically saying, hey guys, these rates are going to stay higher for longer. He specifically said, we're going to maintain restrictive monetary policy to bring down inflation to 2%. And he said really the decision-making process for the Fed over the next several meetings is going to be whether to hike more or to hold. And so there's going to be no rate cuts over the next 3 to 6 months based on what Powell's saying today. And so what you need to be thinking as a home buyer investor is that rates could go higher even than they are still.
So you see on this little segment that the inventory is on a decrease, but we are still way down from where we were last year and where we were from COVID. I even pulled a more specific chart off of our MLS And you can see that the overall inventory volume and trend is in a downward direction. Laying out the statistics this way, point by point, generally shows that we should not have a deep price correction. But as we know back from 2007, 2008, it can happen. So today, there's been a big decrease in mortgage applications. So we know that there are fewer buyers generally in the market. First of all, let's run back the monthly payment of $7,993 back to see what the loan amount on that, and then add in 20% would be. The loan amount becomes 1.1 million, about one and a half million, and 20% of that is approximately 200,000. So let's say 1,450 is where the market stabilizes at, which is about $200,000 from where we're at. This short video quantifies the risk that is currently in the market. If Reventure Consulting is correct, it won't take very much of a market. It won't take much of an inventory move to create the kind of situation that we were in 2008. And given the wealth effect in the Bay Area, it is very hard to predict at what number of inventory in any specific market is going to create fundamental change. My advice to the buyers is that if you find a property that's perfect, don't pass it up, but again, don't be in a rush to buy anything that's out there on the market. So the only points to keep in mind that work against his argument is, first of all, that there's a lot of people who are locked in their mortgages this time around at 2, 3, 4, 5% interest rates. They're not going anywhere. They're going to do everything in the world to keep their mortgage in their homes. Will there be people who have bought into this market that can't afford their homes that will generate foreclosures in 2024, 2025? Quite possibly. But it's not going to be to the extreme that we saw back in 2008, where everybody had ninja loans and variable loans with interest-only payments at the front side that will suddenly increase their payment from $1,000 up to $3,000 after 3 to 5 years. Those loans just don't exist. So what conclusions can we draw? We can illustrate this by asking the following questions. Number 1, will interest rates go up? What we know is mortgage applications are down and inventory is down further. Question number 2, how soon before owners have the equity to comfortably make a move? We know over 80% of the existing homeowners are locked into their current homes, generally speaking. What number of homes moves the needle? We need an increase in inventory to change the market. What event changes the market? In Contra Costa this year's high prices did not greatly exceed last year's high prices, and this year's low prices did not greatly exceed last year's low prices. You can go to my website and check out these analysis directly, what I base my opinions on, the raw data that I base my opinions on. They're available later in the month, sometime after the 10th, and you can download them yourself. They're on PDF. I appreciate you take time to check out this video. My name is Bob Georgiou with Remax Accord. If you have any questions about your house or your neighborhood, feel free to give me a call or leave a comment below. Thank you very much for checking me out. Have a great week, and we will see you in escrow.